failure. Trump
That must,
failed. It's Trump failure.
Trump failure.
What
oh, that,
happened?
well,
What,
that
what,
must have just happened because I just turned off the TV in about 10 minutes.
It did just happen.
so
Yeah,
what happened?
Comey's case has been totally dismissed, as well as Letitia James's case.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
But at the same time, Hegspeth announced that they are putting Mark Kelly under investigation.
Oh,
Of course.
So, well, I think it's great, frankly. I think we are fortunate to have such idiotic opponents.
well, can they contest these decisions? Can they take it back to court and fight it? Or is this definite that the Comey case?
Well, we shall see. And we are no longer in a world where things have clear-cut endings,
Right,
at
right.
least occasionally. So we will see what they do next. But I think that they made such fools of themselves with the Comey and the James
Do it.
case.
Well, the thing is that it was malfeasance on the part of the legal team for Trump. They didn't have the proper documents. The documents weren't submitted right. The attorneys admitted they had never read them.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just an amazing thing that it could have gone that far with legal assistance and not been correctly processed. I mean,
Right.
I'm glad Comey's out, but you
Well,
know,
nobody wanted to work on it, and
yeah, I
they
know.
had trouble finding people to do it.
That's true too. But what's her name? Pat Bondi may be lose her license over this whole thing.
Oh, good.
Good.
We shall see. Anyway, I
Yeah.
think it's entirely appropriate that we are reading Lewis Carroll in a
Yes,
topsy-turvy world.
yes, yes.
This is every bit as absurd.
This is every bit right. The reality is every bit as absurd as
Yes.
whatever Lewis Carroll was making up.
Yeah.
I have a question about the gerrymandering in Texas.
Yes.
That was their attempt was thrown out by a judge, but I also heard that a superior judge has more or less reinstated it.
Has not reinstated it, it's put it on hold. So it was a panel of judges in Texas said this is absurd, and they blocked it. Then Alito, who's one of the Supreme Court justices, was handed the case, and his decision was to suspend the meaning of the new ruling.
Huh.
And so
Oh,
the question is will it go to the full Supreme Court now or not?
well, if Alito is, and he
It,
signed
it,
it.
it stays suspended unless it goes to the Supreme Court.
It could be, I don't know if there was a next higher court after the judges that ruled it, but I believe that the next step is the Supreme Court. But this is the problem. We have a rogue regime that can move very, very quickly, while the justice system moves rather slowly. So what's going to happen next, is a roll of the dice. I follow a guy, Mark Elias, who's heads up one of the main lawyer firms that brings cases against the administration. And so I pay him money every month.
Mm.
Not much, but enough to help him keep this thing going. And I get newsletters from him. And so I suspect he will be explaining later in the day what's going on. So anyway,
We have a phrase over here that would say it's one can of poolie.
Oh, of
And
course.
I don't even speak Irish, but I think I know what that means.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
Duncan,
right. Well, let me announce to the viewers that
Okay.
we are continuing with our reading of Through the Looking Glass, which we are getting fairly close to the end here. I'm not
Yes, we
sure. Okay. So just to let you know, if you're watch the videos and you're interested, the next thing we're going to do after Through the Looking Glass is Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway. So might keep that in mind if you like to read along. All right.
Duncan, I'm not on the reading list.
Oh, sorry.
I'll just go after. I'll go after you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay. But I'll for formality's sake, let me amend my omission.
Okay.
All right. So no, that's a way to say, Tom, if you would please.
Okay. After a while, the noise seemed gradually to die away till all was dead silence, and Alice lifted up her head in some alarm. There was no one to be seen, and her first thought was that she must have been dreaming about the lion and the unicorn and those queer Anglo-Saxon messengers. However, there was a great dish still lying at her feet, on which he had tried to cut the plum cake. So I wasn't dreaming after all, she said to herself, unless we're all part of the same dream. Only I do hope it's my dream and not the Red King's. I don't like belonging to another person's dream, she went on in a rather complaining tone. I've a great mind to go and wake him and see what happens. At this moment, her thoughts were interrupted by a loud shouting of, ahoy, ahoy, check, and a knight dressed in crimson armour came galloping down upon her, brandishing a great club. Just as he reached her, the horse stopped suddenly. You're my prisoner, the knight cried as he tumbled off his horse. Startled as she was, Alice was more frightened for him than for herself at that moment, and watched him with some anxiety as he mounted again. As soon as he was comfortably in the saddle, he began once more. But here another voice broke in. Ahoy, ahoy, check. And Alice looked round in some surprise for the new enemy. This time it was a white knight. He drew up at Alice's side and tumbled off his horse just as the red knight had done. Then he got on again, and the two knights sat and looked at each other for some time without speaking. Alice looked from one to the other in some bewilderment. Joan?
She's my prisoner, you know, the Red Knight said at last. Yes, but then I came and rescued her, the White Knight replied. Well, we must fight for her then, said the Red Knight as he took up his helmet, which hung from the saddle and was something of the shape of a horse's head, and put it on. You will observe the rules of battle, of course, the White Knight remarked, putting on his helmet too. I always do, said the Red Knight, and they began banging away at each other with such fury that Alice got behind a tree to be out of the way of the blows. I wonder now what the rules of battle are, she said to herself as she watched the fight, timidly peeping out from her hiding place. One rule seems to be that if one knight hits the other, he knocks him off his horse, and if he misses, he tumbles off himself. And another rule seems to be that they hold their clubs with their arms as if they were Punch and Judy. What a noise they make when they tumble, just like a whole set of irons falling into the fender. And how quiet the horses are. They let them get on and off them just as if they were tables. Donna?
Another rule of battle that Alice had not noticed seemed to be that they always fell on their heads. When the battle ended with their both falling off in this way side by side. When they got up again, they shook hands, and then the Red Knight mounted and galloped off. It was a glorious victory, wasn't it? Said the White Knight as he came up panting. I don't know, Alice said doubtfully. I don't want to be anybody's prisoner. I want to be a queen. So you will, when you've crossed the next brook, said the White Knight. I'll see you safe to the end of the wood, and then I must go back, you know. That's the end of my move. Thank you very much. May I help you off with your helmet? It was evidently more than he could do by himself. However, managed to shake him out of it at last. Now one can breathe more easily, said the knight, putting back his shaggy hair with both hands and turning his gentle face and large, mild eyes to Alice. She thought she had never seen such a strange-looking soldier in all her life. He was dressed in tin armour, which seemed to fit him very badly, and he had a queer little deal box fastened across his shoulders, upside down, and with the lid hanging open. Alice looked at it with great curiosity. I see you're admiring my little box, the knight said in a friendly tone. It's my own invention, to keep clothes and sandwiches in. You see, I carry it upside down so that the rain can't get in. But the things can get out, Alice gently remarked. Do you know that it's open? I didn't know it, the knight said, a shade of vexation passing over his face. Then all the things must have fallen out, and the box is no use without them. He unfastened it as he spoke, and was just going to throw it into the bushes when a sudden thought seemed to strike him, and he hung it carefully on a tree. Can you guess why I did that? He said to Alice. Alice shook. Hope some bees may make a nest in it, then I should get the honey. But you've got a beehive, or something like one, fastened to the saddles, said Alice. Next.
Yes, it's a very good beehive, the knight said in a discontented tone. One of the best kind, but not a single bee has come near it yet. And the other thing is a mouse trap. I suppose the mice keep the bees out, or the bees keep the mice out. I don't know which. I was wondering what the mouse trap was for, said Alice. It isn't very likely there would be any mice on the horse's back. Not very likely, perhaps, said the knight. But if they do come, I don't choose to have them running all about. You see, he went on after a pause, it's as well to be provided for everything. That's the reason the horse has all those anklets round his feet. But what are they for? Alice asked in a tone of great curiosity. To guard against the bites of sharks, the knight replied. It's an invention of my own. And now help me on. I'll go with you to the end of the wood. What's that dish for? It's meant for plum cake, said Alice. We'd better take it with us, the knight said. It'll come in handy if we find any plum cake. Help me to get it into this bag. This took a long time to manage, though Alice held the bag open very carefully, because the knight was so very awkward in putting in the dish. The first 2 or 3 times that he tried, he fell on himself instead. It's rather a tight fit, you see, he said as they got it in at last. There are so many candlesticks in the bag, and he hung it to the saddle, which was already loaded with bunches of carrots and fire irons and many other things. I hope you've got your hair well fastened on, he continued as they set off. Only in the usual way, Alice said, smiling. That's hardly enough, he said anxiously. You see, the wind is so very strong here. It's as strong as soup. Next, please. Yes.
You invented a plan for keeping the hair from being blown off, Alice inquired. Not yet, said the knight, but I've got a plan for keeping it from falling off. I should like to hear it very much. First, you take an upright stick, said the knight. Then you make your hair creep up it, like a fruit tree. Now the reason hair falls off is because it hangs down. Things never fall upwards, you know. It's a plan of my own invention. You may try it if you like. It didn't sound a comfortable plan, Alice thought, and for a few minutes she walked on in silence, puzzling over the idea and every now and then stopping to help the poor knight, who certainly was not a good rider. Whenever the horse stopped, which it did very often, he fell off in front, and whenever it went on again, which it generally did rather suddenly, he fell off behind. Otherwise, he kept on pretty well, except that he had a habit of now and then falling off sideways. And as he generally did this on the side on which Alice was walking, she soon found that it was the best plan not to walk quite close to the horse. "I'm afraid you've not had much practice riding," she ventured to say, as she helped him up from his fifth stumble. The knight looked very much surprised and a little offended at the remark. "What makes you say that?" he asked, as he scrambled back into the saddle, keeping hold of Alice's hair with one hand to save himself from falling over on the other side. "Because people don't fall off quite so often when they've had much practice." "I've had plenty of practice," the knight said very gravely. "Plenty of practice. Next, please, Anne."
Mhm. Alice could think of nothing better to say than indeed, but she said it as heartily as she could. They went on a little way in silence after this, the knight with his eyes shut, muttering to himself, and Alice watching anxiously for the next tumble. "The great art of riding," the knight suddenly began in a loud voice, waving his right arm as he spoke, "is to keep—" Here the sentence ended as suddenly as it had begun, as the knight fell heavily on top of his head, exactly in the path where Alice was walking. She was quite frightened this time, and said in an anxious tone, as she picked him up, "I hope no bones are broken." "None to speak of," the knight said, as if he didn't mind breaking 2 or 3 of them. "The great art of riding, as I was saying, is to keep your balance properly, like this, you know." He let go the bridle and stretched out both his arms to show Alice what he meant, and this time he fell flat on his back, right under the horse's feet. "Plenty of practice," he went on repeating, all the time that Alice was getting him on his feet again. "Plenty of practice." "It's too ridiculous," cried Alice, losing all her patience this time. "You ought to have a wooden horse on wheels, that you ought." "Does that kind go smoothly?" the knight asked in a tone of great interest, clasping his arms round the horse's neck as he spoke, just in time to save himself from tumbling off again. "Much more smoothly than a live horse," Alice said, with a little scream of laughter, in spite of all she could do to prevent it. "I'll get one," the knight said, thoughtfully to himself. "One or two, maybe several." There was a short silence after this, and then the knight went on again. "I'm a great hand at inventing things. Now, I dare say you noticed the last time you picked me up that I was looking rather thoughtful. Next, Duncan."
Well, you were a little grave," said Alice. "Well, just then I was inventing a new way of getting over a gate. Would you like to hear it?" "Oh, very much indeed," Alice said politely. "I'll tell you how I came to think of it," said the knight. "You see, I said to myself, the only difficulty is with the feet. The head is high enough already. Now, first I put my head on top of the gate. Then the head's high enough. Then I stand on my head. Then the feet are high enough, you see. Then I'm over, you see." "Well, I suppose I suppose you'd be over when that was done," Alice said thoughtfully, "but don't you think it would be rather hard?" "Well, I haven't tried it yet," the knight said gravely, "so I can't tell for certain, but I'm afraid it would be a little hard." He looked so vexed at the idea that Alice changed the subject hastily. "Oh, what a curious helmet you've got," she said cheerfully. "Is that your invention, too?" The knight looked down proudly at his helmet, which hung from the saddle. "Yes," he said, "but I've invented a better one than that, like a sugar loaf." when I used to wear it, if I fell off my horse, it always touched the ground directly. So I had very little way to fall, you see. But there was a danger of falling into it, to be sure. That happened to me once. The worst of it was, before I could get out again, the other white knight came and put it on. He thought it was his own helmet. The knight looked so solemn about it that Alice did not dare to laugh. "I'm afraid you have hurt him," she said in a trembling voice, being on top of his head. Next, Katrina.
I had to kick him, of course, the knight said very seriously, and then he took the helmet off again. But it took hours and hours to get me out. I was as fast as lightning, you know. But that's a different kind of fastness, Alice objected. The knight shook his head. "It was all kinds of fastness with me, I can assure you," he said. He raised his hands in some excitement as he said this, and instantly rolled out of the saddle and fell headlong into a deep ditch. Alice ran to the side of the ditch to look for him. She was rather startled by the fall, for as for some time he had kept on very well, and she was afraid that he really was hurt this time. However, though she could see nothing but the soles of his feet, she was much relieved to hear that he was talking on in his usual tones. "All kinds of fastness," he repeated, "but it was careless of him to put another man's helmet on, with the man in it, too." "How can you go on talking so quietly, head downwards?" Alice asked, as she dragged him out by the feet and laid him in a heap on the bank. The knight looked surprised at the question. What does it matter where my body happens to be?" he said. "My mind goes on working all the same. In fact, the more head downward I am, the more I keep inventing new things. Now, the cleverest thing of the sort that I ever did," he went on after a pause, "was inventing a new pudding during the meat course." "In time to have it cooked for the next course?" Alice said. "Well, that was quick work, certainly." "Well, not the next course," the knight said in a slow, thoughtful tone. "No, certainly not the next course." "Then it would have to be the next day. I suppose you wouldn't have two pudding courses in one dinner?" "Well, not the next day," the knight repeated as before. "Not the next day. In fact," he went on, holding his head down and his voice getting lower and lower, "I don't believe that pudding ever was cooked. In fact, I don't believe that pudding ever will be cooked. And yet it was a very clever pudding to invent." Next, please.
What did you mean it to be made of? Alice asked, hoping to cheer him up. But the poor knight seemed quite low-spirited about it. It
Sorry,
began with
Tom.
blotting. It
Sorry, Tom, don't
began.
forget Tom Doyle.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. Oh, she wasn't on the list there. Yeah, go ahead, Anne.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It began with blotting paper. The knight answered with a groan. "That wouldn't be very nice, I'm afraid." "Not very nice alone," he interrupted quite eagerly. "But you've no idea what a difference it makes, mixing it with other things, such as gunpowder and sealing wax. And here I must leave you." They had just come to the end of the wood. Alice could only look puzzled. She was thinking of the pudding. "You are sad," the knight said in an anxious voice. "Let me sing you a song to comfort you." "Is it very long?" Alice asked, for she had heard a good deal of poetry that day. "It's long," said the knight, "but it's very, very beautiful. Everyone that hears me sing it either brings the tears into their eyes or else what?" said Alice, for the knight had made a sudden pause. "Or else it doesn't, you know." The name of the song is called Haddock's Eyes. "Oh, that's the name of the song, is it?" Alice said, trying to feel interested. "No, you don't understand," the knight said, looking a little vexed. "That's what the name is called. The name really is the Aged Man." "Then I ought to have said that's what the song is called," Alice corrected herself. "No, you oughtn't. That's quite another thing. The song is called Ways and Means. But that's only what it's called, you know." "Well, what is the song then?" said Alice, who by this time was completely bewildered. Thank you.
I was coming to that, the knight said. The song really is a sitting on a gate, and the tune's my own invention. So saying, he stopped his horse and let the reins fall on his neck, then slowly beating time with one hand, and with a faint smile lighting up his gentle, foolish face, as if he enjoyed the music of his song, he began. Of all the strange things that Alice saw in her journey through the looking glass, this was the one that she always remembered most clearly. Years afterwards, she could bring the whole scene back again, as if if it had been only yesterday. The mild blue eyes, the kindly smile of the night, the setting sun gleaming through his hair, and shining on his armour in a blaze of light that quite dazzled her, the horse quietly moving about, with the reins hanging loose on his neck, cropping the grass at her feet, and the black shadows of the forest behind. All this she took in like a picture as, with one hand shading her eyes, she leant against the tree, watching the strange pair and listening in a half-dream to the melancholy music of the song. But the tune isn't his own invention, she said to herself. It's, I give thee all, I can no more. She stood and listened very attentively, but no tears came into her eyes. I'll tell thee everything I can. There's little to relate. I saw an aged man, a-sitting on a gate. Who are you, aged man? I said, and how is it you live? And his answer trickled through my head like water through a sieve. He said, I look for butterflies that sleep among the wheat. I make them into mutton pies and sell them in the street. I sell them unto men, he said, who sail on stormy seas, and that's the way I get my bread, a trifle, if you please. Joan?
Oh, she's muted.
Joan, you're on mute.
Do it. Well, that's peculiar. Let's go back to where what did I start with? I'll tell you. Oh no, not that one. I've got
You
two.
start on the third verse, Joan, yeah.
But I was thinking of a plan.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, to dye one's whiskers green, and always use so large a fan that they could not be seen. So having no reply to give to what the old man said, I cried, "Come tell me how to live," and thumped him on the head. His accents mild took up the tale. He said, I go my ways, and when I find a mountain still, I set it in a blaze, a mountain rill. And then they make a stuff they call Roland's Macassar oil, yet 2 pence halfpenny is all they give me for my toil. But I was thinking of a way to feed myself on batter, and so go on from day to day, getting a little fatter. I shook him well from side to side until his face was blue. Come tell me how you live, I cried, and what it is you do. Donna?
Then I hunt for haddock's eyes among the heather bright, and work them into waistcoat buttons in the silent night. And these I do not sell for gold or coin or silvery shine, but for a copper halfpenny, and that will purchase 9. Sometimes dig for buttered rolls, or set lime twigs for cramps. Sometimes search the grassy knolls for wheels of hansom cabs. And that's the way, he gave a wink, by which I get my wealth, and very gladly will I drink your honour's noble health. I heard him then, for I had just completed my design, to keep men I bridge from rust by boiling it in wine. I thank him much for telling the way he got his wealth, but chiefly for his wish that he might drink my noble health. And now, if e'er by chance I put my fingers into glue, or madly squeeze a right-hand foot into a left-hand shoe, or if I drop upon my toe a very heavy weight, I weep, for it reminds me so of that old man I used to know, whose look was mild, whose speech was slow, whose hair was whiter than the snow, whose face was very like a crow, with eyes like cinders, all aglow, who seemed distracted with his woe, who rocked his body to and fro, and muttered mumblingly and low, as if his mouth were full of dough, who snorted like a buffalo, that summer evening long ago, a-sitting on a gate. Next, Orla.
As the knight sang the last words of the ballad, he gathered up the reins and turned his horse's head along the road by which they had come. "You've only a few yards to go," he said, "down the hill and over that little brook, and then you'll be a queen. But you'll stay and see me off first," he added as Alice turned with an eager look in the direction to which he pointed. "I shan't be long. You'll wait and wave your handkerchief when I get to that turn in the road. I think it will encourage me, you think." "Of course I'll wait," said Alice, "and thank you very much for coming so far, and for the song. I liked it very much." "I hope so," the knight said doubtfully, "but you didn't cry so much as I thought you would." So they shook hands, and then the knight rode slowly away into the forest. "It won't take long to see him off, I expect," Alice said to herself as she stood watching him. "There he goes, right on his head as usual. However, he gets on again pretty easily. That comes of having so many things hung around the horse." So she went on talking to herself as she watched the horse walking leisurely along the road, and the fourth or fifth tumble, and the knight tumbling off, first on one side and then on the other. After the fourth or fifth tumble, he reached the turn, and then she waved her handkerchief to him and waited till he was out of sight. "I hope it encouraged him," she said. She turned to run down the hill. "And now for the last brook, and to be a queen! How grand it sounds!" A very few steps brought her to the edge of the brook. "The 8th square at last!" she cried. She bounded across. Next week.
Threw herself down to rest on the lawn as soft as moss, with little flower beds dotted about here and there. "Oh, how glad I am to get here! And what is this on my head?" she exclaimed in a tone of dismay as she put her hands up to something very heavy that fitted tight all around her head. "But how can it have got there without my knowing it?" she said to herself, as she lifted it off and set it on her lap to make out what it could possibly be, a golden crown. Go on. 9. Queen Alice. "Well, this is grand," said Alice. "I never expected I should be a queen so soon, and I tell you what it is, your Majesty," she went on in a severe tone. She was always rather fond of scolding herself. "It'll never do for you to be lolling about on the grass like that. Queens have to be dignified, you know." So she got up and walked about, rather stiffly at first, as she was afraid that the crown might come off. But she comforted herself with the thought that there was nobody to see her. "And if I really am a queen," she said as she sat again, "I shall be able to manage it quite well in time." Next, please, Hannah.
Yeah, everything was happening so oddly that she didn't feel a bit surprised at finding the Red Queen and the White Queen sitting close by her, one on each side. She would have liked very much to ask them how they came there, but she feared it would not be quite civil. However, there would be no harm, she thought, in asking if the game was over. "Please, would you tell me," she began, looking timidly at the Red Queen. "Speak when you're spoken to," the Queen sharply interrupted her. "But if everybody obeyed that rule," said Alice, who was always ready for a little argument, "and if you only spoke when you were spoken to, and the other person always waited for you to begin. You see, nobody would ever say anything, so that ridiculous, cried the queen. Why don't you see, child? Here she broke off with a frown, and after thinking for a minute, suddenly changed the subject of the conversation. What right have you to call yourself so? You can't be a queen, you know, till you've passed the proper examination, and the sooner we begin it, the better. I only said if, poor Alice pleaded in a piteous tone. The two queens looked at each other, and the Red Queen remarked with a little shudder, she says she only said if, but she said a great deal more than that, the White Queen moaned, wringing her hands. Oh, ever so much more than that. So you did, you know, said the Red Queen to Alice. Always speak the truth. Think before you speak, and write it down afterwards. I'm sure I didn't mean, Alice was beginning, but the Red Queen interrupted her impatiently. That's just what I complain of. You should have meant. What do you suppose is the use of a child without any meaning? Even a joke should have some meaning, and a child's more important than a joke, I hope. You couldn't deny that if you tried with both hands. I don't deny things with my hands, Alice objected. Nobody said you did, said the Red Queen. I said you couldn't if you tried. She's in that state of mind, said the White Queen, that she wants to deny something, only she doesn't know what to do to deny. Next.
A nasty, vicious timber, the Red Queen remarked, and then there was an uncomfortable silence for a minute or two. The Red Queen broke the silence by saying to the White Queen, I invite you to Alice's dinner party this afternoon. The White Queen smiled feebly and said, and I invite you. I didn't know I was to have a party at all, said Alice, but if there is to be one, I think I ought to invite the guest. Well, we gave you the opportunity of doing it, the Red Queen remarked, but I dare say you've not had many lessons in manners yet. Oh, manners are not taught in lessons, said Alice. Lessons teach you to do sums and things like that. Can you do addition? The White Queen said. What's 1 and 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 1? I don't know, said Alice. I lost count. She can't do addition, the Red Queen interrupted. Can you do subtraction? Take 9 from 8. 9 from 8? I can't, you know. Alice replied very readily, but we can't do subtraction, said the White Queen. Can you do division? Divide a loaf by a knife. What's the answer to that? Well, I suppose Alice was beginning, but the Red Queen answered for her. Bread and butter, of course. Try another subtraction sum. Take a bone from a dog. What remains? Next. Katrina?
Oh, sorry. What remains? Alice considered. The bone wouldn't remain, of course, if I took it, and the dog wouldn't remain. It would come to bite me, and I'm sure I shouldn't remain. Then you think nothing would remain, said the Red Queen. I think that's the answer. Wrong, as usual, said the Red Queen. The dog's temper would remain. But I don't see how. Why, look here, the Red Queen cried. The dog would lose its temper, wouldn't it? Perhaps it would, Alice replied cautiously. Then if the dog went away, its temper would remain, the Queen exclaimed triumphantly. Alice said as gravely as she could, they might go different ways. But she couldn't help thinking to herself, what dreadful nonsense we are talking. She can't do sums a bit, the Queen said together with great emphasis. Can you do sums? Alice said, turning suddenly on the White Queen, for she didn't like being found fault with so much. The Queen gasped and shut her eyes. I can do addition, she said, if you can give me time, but I can't do subtraction under any circumstances. Of course you know your ABC, said the Red Queen. To be sure I do, Alice said. So do I, the White Queen whispered, when we often say it over together, dear. And I'll tell you a secret. I can read words of one letter. Isn't that grand? However, don't be discouraged. You'll come to it in time. Here the Red Queen began again. Can you answer useful questions? She said. How is bread made? I know that, Alice cried eagerly. You take some flour. Where do you pick the flour? The White Queen asked. In the garden or in the hedges? Well, it isn't picked at all, Alice explained. It's ground. And how many acres of ground? Said the White Queen. You mustn't leave out so many things. Fan her head, the Red Queen anxiously interrupted. She'll be feverish after so much thinking. So they set to work and fanned her with a bunch of leaves till she had to beg them to leave off. It blew her hair about so. Anne.
Sorry. She's all right again now, said the Red Queen. Do you know languages? What's the French for fiddle-dee-dee? Fiddle-dee-dee, not English. Alice replied gravely. Whoever said it was, said the Red Queen. Alice thought she saw a way out of the difficulty this time. If you're telling me what language fiddle-dee-dee is, I'll tell you the French for it, she exclaimed triumphantly. But the Red Queen drew herself up rather stiffly and said, Queen never makes bargains. I wish queens never ask questions, Alice thought to herself. Don't let us quarrel, the White Queen said in an anxious tone. What is the cause of lightning? The cause of lightning, Alice said very decidedly, for she felt quite certain about it. This. Is it thunder? No. She hastily corrected herself. I meant the other way around. It's too late to correct it, said the Red Queen. When you've once said a thing, that fixes it, and you must take the consequences. Which reminds me, the White Queen said, looking down and nervously clasping and unclasping her hand. We had such a thunderstorm last Tuesday. I mean, one of the last set of Tuesdays, you know. Alice was puzzled. In our country, she remarked, there's only one day at a time. The Red Queen said, that's a poor, thin way of doing things. Now here, we mostly have days and nights, 2 or 3 at a time. And sometimes in the winter, we take as many as 5 nights together for warmth, you know. Are 5 nights warmer than 1 night then, Alice ventured to ask. 5 times as warm, of course. But they should be 5 times as cold by the same rule. Just so, cried the Red Queen, 5 times as warm and 5 times as cold, just as I'm 5 times as rich as you are and 5 times as clever. Alice sighed and gave it up. It's exactly like a riddle with no answer, she thought. Tom.
Humpty Dumpty saw too. The White Queen went on in a low voice, more as if she were talking to herself. He came to the door with a corkscrew in his hand. What did he want? Said the Red Queen. He said he would come in, the White Queen went on, because he was looking for a hippopotamus. Now, as it happened, there wasn't such a thing in the house that morning. Is there generally? Alice asked in an astonished tone. Well, only on Thursdays, said the Queen. I know what he came for, said Alice. He wanted to punish the fish because... Here the White Queen began again. It was such a thunderstorm, you can't think. She never could, you know, said the Red Queen. And part of the roof came off, and ever so much thunder got in, and it went rolling round the room in great lumps, and knocking over the tables and things, till I was so frightened I couldn't remember my own name. Alice thought to herself, I never should try to remember my name in the middle of an accident. Where would be the use of it? But she did not say this out loud, for fear of hurting the poor Queen's feelings. Your Majesty must excuse her, the Red Queen said to Alice, taking one of the White Queen's hands in her own and gently stroking it. She means well, but she can't help saying foolish things as a general rule. The White Queen looked timidly at Alice, who felt she ought to say something kind, but really couldn't think of anything at the moment. She never was really well brought up, the Red Queen went on, but it's amazing how good-tempered she is. Pat her on the head and see how pleased she'll be. But this was more than Alice had courage to do. A little kindness and putting her hair in papers would do wonders with her. The White Queen gave a deep sigh, laid her head on Alice's shoulder. I am so sleepy, she moaned. She's tired, poor thing, said the Red Queen. Smooth her hair, lend her your nightcap, and sing her a soothing lullaby. I haven't got a nightcap with me, said Alice, as she tried to obey the first directions, and I don't know any soothing lullabies. I must do it myself then, said the Red Queen, and she began. Hush-a-bye, lady, in Alice's lap. Till the feast's ready, we've time for a nap. When the feast's over, we'll go to the ball. Red Queen and White Queen and Alice and all. Joan?
Turn on your microphone, Joan.
And now you know the words, she added as she put her head down on Alice's other shoulder. Just sing it through to me. I'm getting sleepy too. In another moment, both queens were fast asleep and snoring loud. What am I to do? Exclaimed Alice, looking about in great perplexity. At first one round head and then the other, rolled down from her shoulder and lay like a heavy lump in her lap. I don't think it ever happened before that anyone had to take care of two queens asleep at once. No, not at all history of England. It couldn't, you know, because there was never more than one queen at a time. Do wake up, you heavy things, she went on in an impatient tone, but there was no answer but a gentle snoring. The snoring got more distinct every minute and sounded more like a tune. At last she could even make out words, and she listened so eagerly that when the two great heads suddenly vanished from her lap, she hardly missed them. She was standing before an arched doorway over which were the words, Queen Alice, in large letters, and on each side of the arch there was a bell handle. One was marked Visitor's Bell, and the other Servant's Bell. I'll wait till the song's over, thought Alice, and then I'll ring the which bell must I ring, she went on, very much puzzled by the names. I'm not a visitor, and I'm not a servant. There ought to be one marked Queen, you know. Donna?
Just then the door opened a little way, and a creature with a long beak put its head out for a moment and said, No admittance till the week after next, and shut the door again with a bang. That rang in a long time. At last a very old frog who was sitting under a tree got up and hobbled slowly towards her. He was dressed in bright yellow and had enormous boots on. What is it now? The frog said in a deep, hoarse whisper. He was turned round, ready to find fault with anybody. Where is the servant whose business it is to answer the door? She began. Which door? Said the frog. Alice almost stamped with irritation at the slow drawl in which he spoke. This door, of course. The frog looked at the door with his large, dull eyes scribbling. Then he went nearer and rubbed it with his thumb, as if he were trying whether the paint would come off. Then he looked at Alice. To answer the door, he said. What had he been asking of? He was so hoarse that Alice could scarcely hear him. I don't know what you mean, she said. I speak English, doesn't I? The frog went on. Or are you deaf? What did it ask you? Nothing, Alice said impatiently. I've been knocking at it. Shouldn't do that, the frog muttered. Wexes it, you know. Then he went up and gave the door a kick with one of his great feet. Let it alone, he panted, as he hobbled back to his tree. And it'll let you alone, you know. At this moment, the door was flung open, and a shrill voice was heard singing. In the looking-glass world, it was Alice that said, I've a sceptre in hand, I've a crown in looking-glass wherever they be. Come and dine with the Red Queen, the White Queen, and me. And hundreds of voices joined in the chorus. Then fill up the glasses as quick as you can and sprinkle the table with buttons and bran. Put cats in the coffee and mice in the tea, and welcome Queen Alice with 30 times Orla.
Then followed a confused noise of cheering, and Alice thought to herself, 30 times 3 makes 90. I wonder if anyone's counting. In a minute there was silence again, and the same voice sang another verse. "Oh, looking-glass creatures," quoth Alice, "draw near. 'Tis an honour to see me, a favour to hear. 'Tis a privilege high to have dinner and tea, along with the Red Queen, the White Queen, and me." Then came the chorus again. "Then fill up the glasses with treacle and ink, or anything else that is pleasant to drink. Mix sand with the cider and wool with the wine, and welcome Queen Alice with 90 times 9. 90 times 9? Alice repeated with despair. "Oh, that'll never be done. I'd better go in at once." And in she went, and there was a dead silence the moment she appeared. Dead.
Alice glanced nervously along the table as she walked up the large hall and noticed that there were about 50 guests of all kinds. Some were animals, some birds, and there were even a few flowers among them. "I'm glad they've come without waiting to be asked," she thought. "I should never have known who were the right people to invite." There were 3 chairs at the head of the table. The Red and White Queens had already taken 2 of them, but the middle one was empty. Alice sat down in it, rather uncomfortable at the silence and longing for someone to speak. At last the Red Queen began. "You've missed the soup and fish," she said. "Put on the joint." And the waiters set a leg of mutton before Alice, who looked at it rather anxiously, as she had never had to carve a joint before. "You look a little shy. Let me introduce you to that leg of mutton," said the Red Queen. Alice, mutton, mutton, Alice. The leg of mutton got up in the dish and made a little bow to Alice, and Alice returned the bow, not knowing whether to be frightened or amused. "May I give you a slice?" she said, taking up the knife and fork and looking from one queen to the other. "Certainly not," the Red Queen said very decidedly. "It isn't etiquette to cut anyone you've been introduced to. Remove the joint." And the waiters carried it off and brought a large plum pudding in its place. Next, please, Anne.
I won't be introduced to the pudding, please," Alice said rather hastily, "or we shall get no dinner at all. May I give you some?" But the Red Queen looked sulky and growled, "Pudding, Alice, Alice, pudding." "Remove the pudding," said the waiters, and the waiters took it away so quickly that Alice couldn't return its bow. However, she didn't see why the Red Queen should be the only one to give orders. So as an experiment, she called out, "Waiter, bring back the pudding." And there it was again in a moment, like a conjuring trick. It was so large that she could not help feeling a little shy with it, as she had been with the mutton. However, she conquered her shyness by a great effort and cut a slice and handed it to the Red Queen. "What impertinence!" said the pudding. "I wonder how you'd like it if I were to cut a slice out of you, you creature." It spoke in a thick, suety sort of voice, and Alice hadn't a word to say in reply. She could only sit and look at it and gasp. "Make a remark," said the Red Queen. "It's ridiculous to leave all the conversation to the pudding. Do you know, I've had such a quantity of poetry repeated to me today." Alice began, a little frightened at finding that the moment she opened her lips, there was a dead silence, and all eyes were fixed upon her. "And it's a very curious thing. I think every poem was about fishes in some way. Do you know why they're so fond of fishes all about here? She spoke to the Red Queen, whose answer was a little wide of the mark. As to fishes, she said very slowly and solemnly, putting her mouth to Alice's ear, her White Majesty knows a lovely riddle, all in poetry, all about fishes. Shall she repeat it? Her Red Majesty is very kind to mention it, the White Queen murmured into Alice's other ear in a voice like the cooing of a pigeon. It would be such a treat. May I? Please do, Alice said very politely. Next, Duncan.
The White Queen laughed with delight and stroked Alice's cheek. Then she began. First, the fish must be caught. That is easy. A baby. I think I could have caught it. Next, the fish must be bought. That is easy. A penny. I think I would have bought it. Now cook me the fish. That is easy and will not take more than a minute. Let it lie in a dish. That is easy because it is already in it. Bring it here. Let me sup. It is easy to set such a dish on the table and take the dish cover up. Ah, that is so hard that I fear I'm unable. For it holds it like glue, holds the lid to the dish while it lies in the middle, which is the easiest thing to do. Undish cover the fish, or dish cover the riddle.
I have the answer here to the riddle. Do you want to hear the answer to the riddle?
I'm waiting impatiently.
Get an oyster knife strong, insert it, twist, cover, and dish in the middle. Then you shall before long undish cover the oysters, dish cover the riddle. Is that clear?
Oh, yeah, that
No.
cleared it all up entirely.
Okay, it was here. It is from something. Yeah.
Okay, all righty. So I guess we're ready for you, Katrina.
Take a minute to think about it, then guess, said the Red Queen. Meanwhile, we'll drink your health. Queen Alice's health, she screamed at the top of her voice, and all the guests began drinking it directly, and very queerly they managed it. Some of them put their glasses upon their heads like extinguishers, and drank all that trickled down their faces. Others upset the decanters and drank the wine as it ran off the edges of the table, and three of them, who looked like kangaroos, scrambled into the dish of roast mutton and began eagerly lapping up the gravy, just like pigs in a trough, Alice thought. You ought to return thanks in a neat speech, the Red Queen said, frowning at Alice as she spoke. We must support you, you know, the White Queen whispered as Alice got up to do it, very obediently, but a little frightened. Thank you very much, she whispered in reply, but I can do quite well without. That wouldn't be at all the thing, the Red Queen said very decidedly, so Alice tried to submit to it with good grace. And they did push so, she said afterwards, when she was telling her sister the history of the feast. You wouldn't have thought that you would have thought that they wanted to squeeze me flat. In fact, it was rather difficult for her to keep her place while she made her speech. The two queens pushed her so, one on each side, that they nearly lifted her up into the air. I rise to return thanks, Alice began, and she really did rise as she spoke several inches. But she got hold of the edge of the table and managed to pull herself down again. Take care of yourself, screamed the White Queen, seizing Alice's hair with both hands. Something's going to happen. And then as Alice afterward described it, all sorts of things happened in a moment. The candles all grew up to the ceiling, looking something like a bed of brushes with fireworks at the top. As to the bottles, they each took a pair of plates, which they hastily fitted on as wings, and so, with forks for legs, went fluttering all about in all directions, and very like birds they look, Alice thought to herself, as well as she could in the dreadful confusion that was beginning. Anne.
At this moment, she heard a horse laugh at her side and turned to see what was the matter with the White Queen. But instead of the Queen, there was the leg of mutton sitting in the chair. "Here I am," cried a voice from the soup tureen, and Alice turned again just in time to see the Queen's broad, good-natured face grinning at her for a moment over the edge of the tureen, before she disappeared into the soup. There was not a moment to be lost. Already several of the guests were lying down in the dishes, and the soup ladle was walking up the table towards Alice's chair and beckoning to her impatiently to get out of its way. "I can't stand this any longer," she cried, as she jumped up and seized the tablecloth with both hands. One good pull, and plates, dishes, guests, and candles came crashing down together in a heap on the floor. "And as for you," she went on, turning fiercely upon the Red Queen, whom she considered as the cause of all the mischief. But the Queen was no longer at her side. She had suddenly dwindled down to the size of a little doll, and was now on the table, merrily running around and round after her own shawl, which was trailing behind her. At any other time, Alice would have felt surprised at this. But she was far too much excited to be surprised at anything now. "As for you," she repeated, catching hold of the little creature in the very act of jumping over a bottle which had just lighted upon the table, "I'll shake you into a kitten, that I will." Yes, tourist. Next, please. Tom.
Chapter 10, Shaking. She took her off the table as she spoke and shook her backwards and forwards with all her might. The Red Queen made no resistance whatever, only her face grew very small and her eyes got large and green. And still, as Alice went on shaking her, she kept on growing shorter and fatter and softer and rounder. And chapter 11, Waking. And it really was the kitten after all. Next, Joan.
Oh, okay. I'll turn the page here. Chapter 12, Which Dreamed It? "Your Red Majesty shouldn't purr so loud," Alice said, rubbing her eyes and addressing the kitten respectfully, yet with some severity. "You woke me up out of such a nice dream. And you've been along with me, Kitty, all through the looking-glass world. Did you know it, dear? It is a very inconvenient habit of kittens," Alice had once made the remark, "that whatever you say to them, they always purr. And if they would only purr for yes and mew for no, or any rule of that sort," she had said, so that one could keep up a conversation. But how can you talk with a person if they always say the same thing? On this occasion, the kitten purred, and it was impossible to guess whether it meant yes or no. Donna?
So Alice hunted among the chessmen on the table till she had found the Red Queen. Then she went down on her knees on the hearthrug and put the kitten and the Queen to look at each other. "Now, Kitty," she cried, clapping her hands triumphantly, "you've got to confess that that was what you turned into." But it wouldn't look at it, she said, when she was explaining the thing afterwards to her sister. It turned away its head and pretended not to see it. But it looked a little ashamed of itself, so I think it must have been the Red Queen. "Sit up a little more stiffly, dear," Alice cried with a merry laugh. "And courtesy while you're thinking what to purr. It saves time, remember." And she cut it up in her arms and gave it one little kiss, just in honor of its having been a Red Queen, you know. Orla, go for it.
"Snowdrop, my pet," she went on, looking over her shoulder at the white kitten, which was still patiently undergoing its toilet. "When will Dinah have finished with your White Majesty, I wonder? That must be the reason you were so untidy in my dream. Dinah, do you know what you're scrubbing a White Queen? Really, it's most disrespectful of you." And what did Dinah turn to, I wonder? She prattled on. She settled comfortably down with one elbow on the rug and her chin in her hand to watch the kittens. Tell me, Dinah, did you turn into Humpty Dumpty? I think you did. However, you'd better not mention it to your friends just yet, for I'm not sure. By the way, Kitty, if only you'd been really with me in my dream, there was one thing you would have enjoyed. I had such a quantity of poetry said to me, all about fishes. Tomorrow morning you shall have a real treat. All the time you're eating your breakfast, I'll repeat the walrus and the carpenter to you, and then you can make believe it's oysters, dear. Next, please, Des.
Now, Kitty, let's consider who it was that dreamed all this. This is a serious question, my dear, and you should not go on licking your paw like that, as if Dinah hadn't washed you this morning. You see, Kitty, it must have been either me or the Red King. He was part of my dream, of course, and then I was part of his dream too. Was it the Red King, Kitty? You were his wife, my dear, so you ought to know. Oh, Kitty, do help to settle it. I'm sure your paw can wait. But the provoking kitten only began on the other paw and pretended it hadn't heard the question. Which do you think it was? Next, please, Anna.
Okay, the poem. A boat beneath a sunny sky, lingering onward dreamily in an evening of July. Children, three that nestle near, eager eye and willing ear, pleased a simple tale to hear. Long has paled that sunny sky, echoes fade and memories die. Autumn frosts have slain July. Still, she haunts me, phantom wise. Alice moving under skies never seen by waking eyes. Children yet, the tale to hear, eager eye and willing ear, lovingly shall nestle near. In a wonderland they lie, dreaming as the days go by, dreaming as the summers die, ever drifting down the stream, lingering in the golden gleam. Life, what is it but a dream? Wow. Oh,
The end. The end.
yeah.
There was an interesting note in here about the White Knight and Alice as being the White Knight was Tennille, and he was the only character in this book that was genuinely nice to Alice, and that this was his goodbye to her as she, I guess, had grown beyond the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
yeah. This last poem is very beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you really feel the movement of the water and the time passing and the dreaming.
It's noted as one of Carol's best.
Ah,
One of his best poems, that is.
It says in this terminal poem, one of Carol's best, he recalls the July 4th boating expedition up the Thames on which he first told the story of Alice's adventures in Wonderland to the three little girls, Liddell. The poem echoes the themes of winter and death that run through the prefatory poem of Through the Looking Glass. It is the song of the White Knight, remembering Alice as she was before she turned away, with tearless and eager eyes to run down the hill and leap the last brook into womanhood. The poem is an acrostic of initial letters of the lines spelling Alice's full name.
oh,
I didn't notice that.
no.
Yeah.
How old was Alice Little when he wrote Through the Looking Glass?
I don't know.
as a reader of Finnegan's Wake, I really got strong Finnegan Wake feelings
Huh.
towards the end of this.
Yeah.
That this was a little parallel to Anna Livia floating out to the sea.
Mm. And also the thing about the dream, kind of saying who's dreaming this, or is it a dream or whatever. And in Finnegan's Wake, it's the same kind of question as
And
dream or
the constant
who-
shape shifting,
yeah,
the different characters.
yeah, and the fact that Joyce mentions the the books and the author in Finnegan's Wake a few times, actually, yeah, here and there. So he obviously was looked at it very much, yeah. But that last poem is lovely, kind of summation of what Carroll was thinking of and how he created the two works, and he kind of saying goodbye to them. I mean, it was a tremendous act of imagination that he created with the two. I'd never read any of them before, so I enjoyed it, and amazing kind of stuff really to come out of he was a mathematician, but he also interested in magic, and he had all sorts of things that he made and puzzles and kind of things. So yeah, it was to make those two books, yeah, really good.
There's a bibliography that's kind of interesting at the back, because it talks about the different aspects that it shows the different aspects of Alice that can be used to interpret it. I mean, one on nonsense, one on mathematics, one on psychology. There are all those ways of looking at this. Or you could follow it also as a chess game.
Yeah. And the way he used cards in the first book and then chess in the second book, and then the numbers, like, doing out the puzzles, the subtraction, addition, so forth. Yeah. And playing with puns on the words and kind of, yeah.
For me, this didn't have quite the charm of the first book.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he may have hamstringed himself a little bit by tying it to a chess game.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
But there seemed to be a fair amount of didactic type stuff in Through the Looking Glass. And I'd be very curious as to anybody has ever written a book drawing out all of the various language lessons.
Yeah.
And things. And I mean, the fact that he so much of the time would use the same word in radically different ways over and over and over again.
It really is so much to think about in these books that you would never really think about until you started thinking about them.
Well, it's kind of understood to be a child's book or a young person's book, but it's not.
Well, it's both, really.
Probably both.
Did children learn chess when they were 7 years old?
Some do.
Checkers.
Checkers, yes. I remember lots of checkers.
Yeah. And there has been so much written about these books
Mhm.
that they really are amazing, aren't they, though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very inventive.
Yes.
And the way you kind of, when you're reading it, you kind of accept all the changes that the things change into, and Alice becomes smaller, and
Yeah.
then she goes from one dimension to the other without any problems, and you kind of accept that as you're reading along. Yeah.
And the other thing is how she speaks up to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like she has a voice and a command and a curiosity.
Yeah.
Who's got company?
Oh, there's somebody outside here, and I can't shut them off. It's so somebody's horn is stuck, I think.
Oh.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
car.
Well, I can do this.
Yes, it did make a difference.
Well, actually, that turned it off.
It worked.
What did you do?
It worked.
She muted herself.
Yeah, that's.
It turned the horn off.
You think that was me?
It's very Alice in Wonderland like.
Yes, it is.
So has anybody read other things by Lewis Carroll?
I don't know what else he's written. Let's see if it says.
This is my book.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell us what.
Wow.
Read us the the
Contents
titles of some of the stuff after Alice and after Through the Looking
through the
Glass.
looking glass. Okay. Sylvie and Bruno. Sylvie and Bruno concluded. A Tangled Tale. The Hunting of the Snark.
Oh, that I've heard of.
Yeah, well, the Snark was that was a boat, wasn't it? Anyway, okay, Phantasmagoria and Other Poems. Three Sunsets and Other Poems. And that's it. And this book is 933 pages. No, more than that.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh.
So you think that these tales, the two major ones, were just entertainments for the little girls?
Can I ask before somebody answers that question? Snarky. If somebody is snarky, does that mean they're a bit sort of on edge and they're saying
Yeah.
sort of sarcastic things?
Yeah.
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 You would ask a question like that.
Be critical or sarcastic,
Yeah.
mocking sort.
A superiority to them.
Yeah.
Jack London, the writer from California, I think his boat was called the Snark.
The Snark.
He traveled all over, the Pacific in the boat, I believe.
Was it named after Lewis Carroll?
I don't know. I don't know. And I have a book here, and I didn't get a chance to read it, but I'll tell you the book. It's called Inventing Wonderland, and it's Victorian childhood as seen through the lives and fantasies of Lewis Carroll, Edward Lear, J.M. Barrie, Kenneth Grahame, and A.A. Milne. So it's like a camaraderie of these guys writing these poems about childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about girls. I think about girls too.
Mm-hmm. What's the title?
Inventing Wonderland. And it's, I'll tell you who it's by. Jackie Wullschlager, Wullschlager.
Hmm.
Williger.
Maybe to get over that, we need some Dickens or something
Well,
as an antidote to the dream of a Victorian lovely youth.
Yeah.
this was the antidote to the Kafka.
Yes.
Now we need an
Yes.
antidote to the antidote.
Well, there's a little bit of Kafka. There's some Kafka in this, though.
Yeah.
Some of the interactions with
Yes.
the different characters between Alice and the different characters are very Kafkaesque.
Yes.
Well, the question that nothing is usual,
Mm.
accepted nevertheless. I mean, Alice really does respond, doesn't she? Like, what's his name in the? Never thought of that.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
He invented a circular billiard table. In 1889, he invented circular billiards, an idiosyncratic notion played on a circular table without pockets, which he had specially built for the purpose. The rules were published the following year. He was always doing things, and then he invented a monkey puzzle.
Talk about Lewis Carroll invented the circular.
Yeah, Dodgson. Yeah, he kept inventing things, and he wrote a book on logic,
Mm-hmm.
and he wrote pillow problems. Carroll reveals himself as a devotee of his own White Queen's advice. Almost all of the 72 problems were solved by him while lying awake at night between 1874 and 1891, which he goes to great lengths to catalogue. So he spent his time doing this kind of stuff. It's a book I just picked up off a stall. There's a market here on Sunday, and a person comes out, and this was The Magic of Lewis Carroll. But it's full of it's just full of an introduction, but it's full of puzzles that he invented all along the line. You know, and like he has a handkerchief thing as well. That Isa Bowman was I think she's mentioned in Finnegan's Wake as well. She was the first person, I think, to act out Alice on stage, I think. And she talks about, and she was a friend of his till she died, I think, or till he died. And she speaks very, very well of him. But he had a handkerchief trick that he used to do for her, where she showed all this kind of stuff. So he seems to have spent a lot of his time doing this kind of thing, inventing puzzles and that. And when he died, he had 3 books. There was 3 chess books that was there amongst loads of other gadgets that he had invented and kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, we shall declare the
Alice,
reading
goodbye,
of
Alice.
Lewis Carroll
Exactly.
to be at an end, at least now.
Alex.
Let's float down the stream.
Yes.
Oh, I must
For those
go.
of you who read Finnegan's Wake, he does name check Lewis Carroll, doesn't he?
Oh yeah,
He does, yeah.
He has some pretty odd little things
Yeah.
related to Carroll. Not all of them praiseworthy, shall we say.
And he mentions Dodgson by name as well, I think, somewhere in some line. Yeah. So he was. I'd say Joyce found it kind of interesting.
I think Joyce, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Anybody stumbles across a book talking about how Joyce used Lewis Carroll. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stuff on Dante and there's stuff on Shakespeare.
Yeah.
There's so much
Mm.
wordplay and conceptual metamorphoses that go on. Makes one wonder how much time Joyce spent thinking about Lewis Carroll's work.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
All righty. So next week is December. Bring shareables.
Yes.
And then the week after that, we will begin Mrs. Dalloway.
Right.
And we should think of, I was just thinking of, I guess more Ulysses, what we want to read at Christmas. But that's not really relevant to this group.
Well,
Unless we wanted to use this
let's
group.
see
and
how
read-
many. Okay, so Americanos. Actually, the only Americans here are you and Joan, and well, that's a pretty sizable
Anna.
member of the group.
Mhm.
Anna,
Yeah.
yeah,
You.
yeah. Well, we can discuss that. I mean, my favorite thing to read at Christmas time, although not everyone agrees with me, is the dinner.
Yes,
Mm.
The
and that's a
dinner,
tradition here.
Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man.
We've been doing that for a few years, so it's traditional.
How
But I
about
don't
just,
remember which group did it.
I think it was Monday Book Club that did
Could
it
be. I don't
the
remember.
last
I think
time
so.
because we were more heavily into Joyce. This year we have not been as heavily into
Mhm.
Joyce stuff. But anyway, it's always great to read.
Yes.
yeah,
And
I must go. I'm sorry, but thank you.
okay, well,
Happy
we are all
Thanksgiving.
going.
Yeah.
You are just leading the way.
Okay,
And
Bye. Thank
And-
you.
Bye.
yeah,
Paul.
okay, okay.
Okay.